trying to learn Korean? Get the lessons that are perfect for you. Click here to get your free lifetime account.
Hi everyone, I'm Jae-hui. Welcome back to Korean Weekly Words. In this video, we'll be talking about 20 travel phrases you should know. Let's begin. 고마워요, thank you. I think if you just have to remember just one phrase before you travel to Korea, I think this is the phrase that you should know. 고마워요. There are different phrases meaning thank you. For example, 감사합니다, which is more formal, something like I appreciate. But 고마워요 can be used in general for any like casual or formal situation. For example, 저쪽에 가시면 화장실이 있어요. The toilet is over there. And you can just say 고마워요, thank you. Just for your tip, in Korea, it's mandatory to open a bathroom on the first floor of every building. So if you don't know where you can find a restroom, you just go to any big building around you, and then you'll be able to see a restroom open to public on the first floor of each building. 저기요, excuse me. If you want to ask how to get to a restroom around you, you can just say 저기요, 화장실은 어디에 있어요? Excuse me, where's the toilet? And then you can say 고마워요 to thank you after getting the answer. 얼마입니까? How much is it? 얼마입니까 sounds a little bit formal, so if you want to go a little bit casual, you can also say 얼마예요? How much is it? You're at a store like for clothing and you find a very good clothing for you, but there's no price tag. Then in this case, you can say 얼마입니까? 얼마예요? Meaning how much is this? 기차역이 어디예요? Where's the train station? Here we have the noun 기차역 meaning train station, and you can replace it with the other noun saying 화장실이 어디예요? Where's the toilet? Or 지하철역이 어디예요? Where's the subway station? 와이파이 인터넷은 무료인가요? Is the Wi-Fi free? So here we have the word Wi-Fi internet, or simply you can also say Wi-Fi to mean Wi-Fi. If you go to any cafe like Starbucks, let's say you buy a coffee, then you can get a receipt, and on the receipt you can find a Wi-Fi password. Checking it, you can ask them saying Wi-Fi는 무료인가요? Or Wi-Fi 인터넷은 무료인가요? Meaning, is the Wi-Fi free? 이거로 할게요. I'd like this. 이걸로 할게요. I like this. Here we have the noun 이거 meaning this. If you want to say that thing, you can say 저거로 할게요. I'd like that. 메뉴판 좀 주실래요? Could we have the menu please? 메뉴판 좀 주실래요? Could we have the menu please? You can just simply say menu and say 메뉴 좀 주실래요 to mean the same thing. This is very polite expression, so I recommend you to use that. And if you need something else, you can just replace 메뉴판 with something else. For example, 물 좀 주실래요? Could we have water please? Or 김치 좀 주실래요? Could we have kimchi please? 추천해 주시겠어요? Do you have any recommendations? If you're not sure what to have at the restaurant, you can just say 추천해 주시겠어요? Do you have any recommendations? If you're not sure what to order at a Korean restaurant, I would highly recommend you try 불고기, which is kind of seasoned beef with soy sauce and sugar. So it's a little bit salty but also sweet but not spicy. 불고기를 추천합니다. I recommend 불고기. 땅콩 알러지가 있어요. I'm allergic to peanuts. If you're allergic to peanuts, you can just say 땅콩 알러지가 있어요. If you're allergic to something else, you can just say something 알러지가 있어요. For example, if you're allergic to cats, you can just replace 땅콩 with 고양이, which means cat, and say 고양이 알러지가 있어요. I'm allergic to cats. 채식 메뉴 있어요? Do you have any vegetarian dishes? Although many Korean dishes use a lot of vegetables, it's not easy to find something only for vegetarians. So it's better to ask, 채식 메뉴 있어요? Do you have any vegetarian dishes? Before you order something at a Korean restaurant. Or if you want to try a traditional Korean dish but without any beef or meat, you can just say 고기 빼고 주세요, which means please make dish without meat. 계산서 주세요. Could I have the check? If you want to pay for your dish, you can just ask 계산서 주세요. 카드 돼요? Do you take credit card? 카드 돼요? Do you take credit card? Almost all the restaurants, they accept credit cards. So even if you don't have any Korean currency, it's okay to just go to a restaurant and just pay by your credit card. 사진 좀 찍어주실래요? Could you take a picture of me, please? So if you're alone, but if you want to take a picture of you with something beautiful, you can just ask 사진 좀 찍어주실래요? 금연석으로 주세요. I'd like to have a non-smoking seat, please. Actually, you don't have to ask this question anymore because since 2015, all restaurants in South Korea became non-smoking, like smoking-free. But you can use the pattern to ask something else. For example, 창가 근처로 주세요. I'd like to have a window seat. 할인해 주실 수 있어요? could you give me a discount? Simply, you can also say 할인해 주세요, which means please give me a discount. When you are at a Korean traditional market, I think it's mandatory to ask this question because usually they expect their customers to ask this question. So it's better to ask the question. It's kind of fun to get some discount. So in the case, you can say 할인해 줄 수 있어요? Could you give me a discount? Or 할인해 주세요. Please give me a discount. 지도 좀 주실래요? Could I get a map? It's possible to not have any internet connection on your phone, so you need a map. In that case, you can just go to a tourist information center where you can find almost every tourist spot in South Korea and just say 지도 좀 주실래요? Could I get a map? 예약했어요. I have a reservation. So when you step into a hotel, when you step into a guest house, the staff will ask you like 예약하셨어요? Did you make a reservation? Then you can say 예약했어요. I made a reservation. I have a reservation. 물 주세요. Water please. This is very simple pattern. Like you can just replace 물 with something else. 김치 주세요. 김치 please. 주세요 can be used for any situations. It sounds polite, but still a little bit casual. If you want to be really polite, you can also say something 주시겠어요? 물 주시겠어요? 김치 주시겠어요? That means, could you please give me something? But for most of the cases, you can just remember 주세요 and say something 주세요 to mean something please. 영어 할 줄 아세요? Do you speak English? Simply, you can also say 영어 하세요. It literally means, do you do English? But it can mean, do you speak English? You know, if someone says something in Korean and you want to ask the person to repeat this question in English, you can just say 영어로 말해주세요. Please say that in English. 괜찮아요. It's okay. So in Korean, it's better to say something indirectly if you want to be polite. So if you want to say no, it's better to say 괜찮아요, which literally means it's okay, but it can be translated as no. So for example, if someone asks you to buy something, you can just say 괜찮아요 to mean no. It's better than saying 아니에요, which means no, literally, because it sounds too direct, and so therefore it sounds a little bit rude. Okay, that's all 20 travel phrases you should know. I hope you use some of the phrases when you travel to Korea. Make sure to come to koreanclass101.com to learn more expressions. I'll see you next time. 다음 시간에 뵙겠습니다. 안녕히 계세요.